Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur, and Uber has written a blog post about their new surge, where it's being rolled out, and what it entails, and we're going to look over it step by step. But before we do that, here is a word from our sponsors because Lord knows I won't be making any money with Surge once this hits the market. And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo. So we all know that Uber has this new surge. It's an upfront pricing surge where Uber can effectively royally screw the drivers. But hey, let's be a little fair. Uber does deserve to have their own ear. Let's let them explain it. And they have written this blog post called Your Questions About the New Surge Answered. As you can see, there's a $3, $6, and a $12. And of course, they conveniently put the person you're picking up in the $12. So here's what it says. We've heard from you that surge can be frustrating. Actually, no, it's really not frustrating. It's actually really simple for the most part until you decide to do this. So we're introducing updates to make it a more reliable and consistent earning opportunity for drivers. Last week, we held roundtable discussions with drivers in your city to review the updates and hear their questions and feedback on how we might continue to improve surge. You mean like the fact that we get to keep it? Like things like that? Here's an overview of our discussions and answers to the main questions they asked. What's changing about Surge? We're addressing your feedback with the following updates. 1, we know it takes time for you to get to a Surge zone, so Surge now lasts longer on the map. Which is interesting because I thought Surge appeared because of supply and demand. Now it seems like Uber will officially be controlling the surge and where it is. Officially. 2, instead of just basing surge off where the rider pickup happens, we will now also take your location into account. If you and your rider are both in a surge zone, you'll earn the higher of the two amounts. Okay, and here's the thing. That has always been a nice feature. I like that idea. Do I trust Uber to implement it in a way that it's fair or that you'll even get the higher fare most of the time? No. 3, we're changing from multipliers, think 1x or 2.3x, to dollar amounts. No more guesswork. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of guesswork in this. The multipliers were really simple. If you got a 2.3, you got 2.3, your fare times 2.3. And the thing was, there was no way to know where you were going, so there was nothing to guess in the first place. You just saw the ride was going to pay more money, it was going to pay this multiplier, and you would gladly accept it if it had this multiplier. I didn't have any math to do before this happened. Now, it's just going to be a flat fare, and now it's actually too simple. I know, okay, I'm getting $5, but I still don't know how long or how short that trip is. Therefore, there's actually more guesswork involved. But let's look at this. The dollar amount shown on the map is the minimum surge amount you'll earn extra on your next trip. On longer trips, you might earn more than the amount shown on the map. Okay, that's actually really nice. That's actually good. If that is the case, then that would be a good thing. These additional earnings will be shown on your trip receipt once you complete the trip. So this is the first I'm hearing that you might actually get more surge if the trip is longer, and that desperately needs to be true. Now, granted, I know Uber is going to be taking some of their own share. I know they are, but that might help a little. 4, surge amounts will now stick with you as you continue to move through zones before your next trip. That means you will keep the highest surge amount that you have driven through for your next trip, even if you leave the surge zone without going offline. So that one actually confuses me a little. not gonna lie. The surge amounts will now stick with you to continue to move through zones before your next trip. This means you'll keep the high surge amount you have driven through for your next trip. I'm assuming what that means is if the next trip you get while you're in the surge zone, you will get the surge even if that passenger is not in the surge zone, which that could be good, but of course, how do we know that? I don't trust Uber's algorithm as far as I could throw it. So, but if true, that is another positive thing. Our goal with these changes is to make sure Surge a less stressful and more reliable way for you to earn, not increase Uber's share of earnings. Yeah, you know what, Uber, once you start telling us how much you got from the trip and compared to how much we got, I'll believe that. But it's clear that they're at least listening to something. They want to clarify that, even though I sincerely doubt that that's how it's going to work. If you choose to drive to Surge, you can expect your weekly Surge earnings to remain steady or increase. Well, hopefully some of the channels out there, and there are several, so just pick one, that make a couple thousand a week. Hopefully they can confirm if that's true or not. That is honestly something I cannot confirm, although I will say this. I do plan to drive New Year's Eve one more time with this new Surge just to see if it compares to the last few years. I think that would be useful. Okay, how do I earn with the new Surge? This should be relatively straightforward. 1. Drive to Surge Zone. If you drive through multiplier Surge zones, you'll earn the high Surge amount that you have driven through your next trip. 2. Stay online and accept your next trip. 3. You will earn Surge if you are in a Surge zone or the rider's pickup location is in a Surge zone when you accept the trip. 4. The Surge amount will be shown at the bottom of your home screen when you're in a Surge zone. This is the minimum Surge amount that you'll earn on your next trip. In addition to regular fares, note the Surge amount will not apply to your next trip if you reject, cancel, go offline, or change your trip preferences. So, yeah, that pretty much means that, yeah, if on the app you're in the Surge zone, whatever zone you're in, that's how much you're getting. Where this, of course, still leads to question, what if the person picking up is in the higher Surge zone? Are you getting that higher Surge, or are you getting the lower Surge? And this whole note, the Surge amount will not apply to your next trip if you reject, cancel, or go offline to change your... So I'm assuming that means when you're in a Surge zone, you have to accept that trip. If you reject it because you want a higher Surge, then you're screwed. You're not going to be getting a Surge the next trip, regardless where it is. And that is dirty. That is a very dirty thing to do. But at least that's how I'm reading it. If someone from Uber wants to, basically confirm whether that's true or not, comment below. Okay. Boy, there's a lot of these. This might be a long video, guys. How will this change affect my earnings? Well, it'll make less, that's for certain. With dollar amounts on the map, you can earn additional Surge amounts consistently on every trip, no matter the length. Watch those Surge earnings and add up on each Surge trip without relying on that single lucky long Surge trip. Here are a few scenarios to help show how it might work across different trips compared with the previous version of the Surge. Old version of the Surge. 1.7 rider requests outside of Surge, $0. New version of Surge, $3. Okay. 1.4 Surge disappears after you get there before the next trip. Version of Surge, 0. Version of Surge, $2.25. 2 times longer trips, $13.47, $5.75. So I'll give them this much credit. They're at least admitting in one of these scenarios that the old model, you would get more money in Surge than the new model. But how do they spin that? The 2.1 shorter trip, $3.31 on the old Surge, $6 on the new Surge, which means in the past you would have made $16.78. With the new Surge, you would get $17. That is so Uber. Are you kidding? I mean, look at this. You're essentially admitting they're barely making more. Is that is that 22 cents really so important to the drivers? I mean, God, you got to be kidding me. That is such a man. So effectively, the new surge doesn't actually add anything to all this. I mean, notice that on shorter trips, you'll earn more with the new surge, but on infrequent longer trips, you may earn a little less than before. Because most trips are shorter, this change will allow you to earn surge amounts more consistently and more often. Yeah, but you know what? When we have the longer trips, it seems pretty obvious you'd make a lot more on the surge under the old model. But with that being said, Uber does have a section dedicated to the long trip. How does surge work on long trips? Here's the answer. The surge dollar amounts shown on the map are the minimum you can earn on a surge trip. When you complete a longer surge trip, you'll often see your surge amounts adjusted with added amounts. These additional amounts will vary based on time, distance, and the rider price of a trip. We add these surge amounts to ensure that you're earning for your extra effort and receiving a meaningful portion of the surge rider price. And of course, I guess Uber determines what a meaningful amount is, because I think I should get 80% of the surge regardless, but whatever. Check the surge line item on your trip receipt at the end of long trips to see any additional earnings on top of what was shown on your map screen. The next question is, sometimes I don't get surge on my next trip. Why is that? When you reach a surge zone, the additional surge earnings will not be applied to your next trip if you are to cancel, reject, go offline, or change your trip preferences. Rider cancellations will not affect surge amounts. Thank God, I guess. How do I get feedback about the new surge experience? Well, you can make a YouTube video, but I doubt they watch those. Your feedback is valuable. It's always hard to read things like that with a straight face. And helps us improve your driving experience. If you have thoughts or suggestions about the new surge, we'd love to hear it. To submit your feedback, use the form below or head to your local Greenlight hub to talk to an expert. Yeah, I'm going to leave a link to this below. So go to submit feedback and say, yeah, get rid of this new surge. I don't like it. Back to basics. What is surge? This seems a little unnecessary, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So there are times when many people are requesting rides that where there aren't enough cars on the road to help them all. Bad weather, rush hour, and special events, for instance, may cause unusually large number of people wanting a ride with Uber all at the same time. To make it worth your while to drive to these busy areas, we add dollar amounts on top of your fares for trips taken from there. These dollar amounts are shown on the map screen. The dollar amounts on the map will increase in zones where there is a higher discrepancy between demand for rides and drivers in the zone. This is shown through the colors on the map and the dollar amounts you see. You will see higher dollar amounts in the middle or red zone of the surge zones. These represent a higher volume of riders requesting. Dollar amounts are lower in surrounding zones where there are fewer riders requesting. Please note, this updated surge experience is only live in Charlotte, Cincinnati, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Rhode Island, and San Antonio. So far it seems like everywhere else is fine. So anyway, yeah. I think this sums it up just perfectly, where, not only do you make the same amount, but in the longer trip, you're going to be making less money on the surge. I guess it's nice that Uber at least admitted that much, that on longer trips, you are probably going to earn less than what you would have under the old system. But hey, look at how much you're making under the shorter rides. And really, for some, that might be enough. Because, the shorter rides are the vast majority of your rides. It's just, unfortunately, how it is. And so to have little surge guarantees for those short rides is definitely very, very nice. But, this is definitely just to cover up higher earnings for Uber, despite what they say. Again, until they start being transparent about what they're taking out of the ride versus what you're getting, I don't trust them at all. I don't trust their algorithm. I do believe it will be beneficial when it first launches, because in the few cities it has been tested, the story was actually pretty similar across the few cities that had this. Where when it first came to the area, you actually got pretty good surge amounts. In fact, some people preferred the new system because they were getting $12, $15, $20 on 3 mile rides. And it was like, oh yeah, this new surge is awesome. But once it became more regular, then the surges went down and down to the point where some people were doing like hour-long trips and getting a $5 surge on top of the fare, which even under the worst of the worst, the 1.1 multiplier, I mean, you would have gotten more than $5. So, and of course, I did that video where someone showed their receipt and saw that Uber took 85% or like maybe 81%, whatever it was, of the fare. So that instead of getting like $120, the driver got $20. And that is where Uber really wants this to go. So that, make no mistake, this is about pocketing their bank accounts. They're doing this strictly to screw you. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out. And really, folks, they have a forum. They have a submit feedback. If you don't like it, submit it. Tell me you don't like it. I'm sure they'll listen to you because that's what they do. Apparently, they listen to our every concerns where they're giving us a new app that we never asked for and updating the surge, even though the surge has never been confusing, and that's one of the few things we actually like about doing this. So, I don't know. Anyway, I have to ask you, what do you think of the new surge? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member or a sponsor. Business email is below. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.